Now today when we start our class, we're going to be in a kneeling position. And I'm aware that not everybody loves kneeling. So just for the first few moments, you could choose to sit on your bottom. I'm set up where I've got myself pointing to the short end of my mat and in a kneeling position. So you could just be sitting in that orientation. And to get ourselves a little more present to how we're feeling in this moment here, let's bring those palms together. Maybe let the heel of the thumb and hand there land right at the sternum, lifting up through your posture. And even maybe close the eyes and take a couple breaths and breathe into that point where the hand meets the chest. And if you're not kneeling with me, like I said, you could just be sitting in this moment. It's fine. Just to have this moment to bring ourselves out of that thinking state and more into that aware state. Usually just simply feeling that breath come and go helps draw you in. Notice what you can sense in this moment. What do you sense about your breath, about your body? Any other feelings? Take that breath in maybe just a little bit deeper now and really get a sense of expansion through the chest and ribs as you breathe it in. And let that exhale be complete. Good, and then let those hands relax down. We're going to be helping ourselves up a little bit higher now. So this is, I call this a high kneeling position. Make sure there's lots of room on your mat in front of you. We're going to be getting into a little flow sequence right away. And we are on the knees a fair amount, so just check in and see if you need any extra padding there. Okay, to begin with, we're reaching up. So we sweep those arms up towards the ceiling. Palms will come together. And then the next step is to travel those hands down in front. And as you do, you're bowing at your hips. And then you just send those arms out, landing the hands in front of you. And hips settle back a little bit. And then from there, we slide the hands in under us a bit and then bring those hips up. And we're going to move into cow pose, where we drop the belly and look forward. And the next move will be cat stretch. Round the back, tuck the tail. Chin in, just moving really slow. And then back to cow pose, belly dropping, chest moving forward through the arms. Now tuck your toes under and begin to lift the knees and the hips up into a really light downward dog. Don't worry about making it perfect. Just lift up, create that shape. Keep those knees bent if you wish. Good, and then start to settle those knees back down to the floor, untuck the toes. Then you just kind of slide those hands back. And together we rise up to that high kneeling. Sweep those hands up, inhale. Exhale, travel those hands down in front and send the hands to the ground. On your inhale, let's come up into that cow pose. Exhale, round the back, cat stretch. Inhale, drop the belly again, look forward. And exhale, tuck the toes, lift up into downward dog. Let's stay here for an inhale. As you breathe out, the knees are lowering down and we slide the hands back. Bring it into the inhale as you reach up. Exhale, fold forward and down. Take your time. Inhale, cow pose. And exhale, cat. Belly draws in. Good. Another cow pose here. Inhale. And exhale, tuck the toes, downward dog. Shift it back. Breathe in to hold. And on the exhale, we're lowering those knees back down. Good. Start again. Rise up high. Inhale. Breathe it out. Exhale. Fold it down to the ground. Inhale, back arch, looking up. And exhale, round the back. Good. Inhale again into cow. And exhale, tuck the toes, downward dog. Breathe it in here. And exhale to lower. Now I'm going to do it one more round, maybe just following through with the breath. Inhale up. And breathe it out. Inhale. And exhale. Breathing in. And exhale. I'm here in downward dog, taking a breath. Good, and lower those knees down. And then this time, let's sit the hips back a little bit further now into our child's pose. Sometimes we'll widen the knees a little bit. Come on down, reach those arms in front, lower the head down to where it's comfortable. Feel those hands making connection to the ground here. See if you can relax the neck a little bit. Breathing into that center. And let's take it to a side lean from here. You might lift out of it a little bit and then walk those hands over to one side. One more breath. And travel over to that other side now. Okay, walk the hands forward and we'll bring those hips up. And let's travel down to the ground onto our fronts here. Okay, now that we're here, bring those arms in front, crisscrossed, and you can lower your forehead down to rest. And just get a little pattern going here. First of all, just make sure those legs feel nicely stretched back. You're going to be lifting up the right leg, lifts up straight. Maybe the knee just comes up off the ground, so it's not too high. And at the same time, lift the head up away from those hands. And then lower the head and the leg down. And then we'll go back into it, lifting the left leg this time. Head rises and lower. And usually I like to breathe with this one, so there's an inhale on the lift up, and then an exhale when you bring it down, alternating those legs. So this is a subtle lift of both the upper body and the lower body. And each time you do your lift, see if you can stretch that leg back and reach forward through the crown of the head. So opposite directions. Checking in with the way your hips are making connection to the ground as you lift that leg. We want to keep the pelvis level. Let's finish up one more time here. Nice, and then as you complete that last one for yourself, let's bring our hands now beside the chest and get ourselves prepared for a cobra lift. So bring those upper arms in close to the ribs, wide fingers. So legs are stretching back. Press down into those hands and start to lift up. Bringing up the head and chest, light back arch to where you feel comfortable. Just looking forward for now. Let's hang out here for another 2 breaths. Good, and then feel free to lower. And from that position, help yourself up. Bring those hips up. And let's go into a downward dog. Hands a little bit forward, tuck those toes, and begin to lift. Now we have done this already with that flow early on, but we'll just give this a little hold now. Some of you might still be feeling that tension down into the calves. You're welcome to do those heel presses. Good, okay, let's get ourselves ready to stand next. So feel free to kneel down first or take a couple steps forward with the feet. And we'll come up. Here. Okay, looks like everybody, that I can see at least, is upstanding now. Now we're going to get into our Warrior Two stance right away. So we'll get that wide separation between the feet. And we could maybe start with turning out the left foot today. And you'll bend into that left knee. And I've just got my left hand sort of resting on that thigh. Now with the right arm, we're going to do some circles. So we're going to sweep forward as we bend that knee, reach up and around, and then come out of your knee bend as the arm travels back. You'll kind of get that natural flow with it. So our body is sideways oriented a little bit here to that long side of the mat. Good. And these aren't really big leg bends. They're just sort of warming up through into that leg there and getting some shoulder motions. It's looking really good from what I can see there. Okay, one more circle there on this side. All right, now as we come out, I will rearrange my feet to point forward here, hands to the hips, and we're going to try to come into a bend with a really flat back, and we're just bending from our hips. So we're not trying to go too low, just a little bit. And I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see what that would look like from the side. It's just a small bend, chest is lifted, back is flat. Travel it back up and then go into a back bend. Hands are sort of more at the back of the hips, elbows draw back, and a little lift and opening through the chest. And give that a little moment, just a pause, and then release. Good, and then we go to our other side. So turn out that right foot, get a little bend into that knee, rest your hand down, and that left arm is going to do its big circle and up. And maybe just checking in with the breath as you get flowing on this side. Nice long full breaths here. Let's do one more big circle there. Perfect, okay. Let's bring those feet in for a moment here. I'll come back to that wide position. With the feet together, let's take that right leg and cross it over the left there. And we've got the toes tucked under with that right foot. Reach the right arm up. We're going to lean over to the left here. Maybe get a little bit of drawing in sensation with the tummy there. So go to where you're comfortable and still balanced into a bit of a side bend. That's it. And release. Switch that over. Left leg across. Really kind of press down into the ball of the foot of that left foot there. Reach it up. We're leaning to the right this time. Stay with that breath. There, okay, come on out. So we're going back to a wide stance. And our toes will be turned out this time. We're going to be bending. So as you bend those knees, let's bring the elbows to a bend too. This one here, we don't sit our seat back, but rather the tail's tucked under a little. Good. And when we come out of the bend, let's reach it up today. Breathe it in and then exhale and bend. And out. Now as you get going into this, sometimes you have to adjust the feet a little bit. Make sure you feel balanced here. Try to keep those knees directed at the same angle as the feet as you bend. That's great. Let's try that a couple more rounds here. Good job. Okay. Let's relax the arms down, turn the feet to point in again, and we're going to come back into that half bend that we did with the hands on the hips. Sometimes I actually pigeon toe in a little bit, but flat back. Not going for a really big bend still. Just a little lean here to where you're comfortable. Hopefully feeling a little bit into the hamstrings. That's it. Come on up. And let's do the back bend one more time too. Hands a little bit further back. Open up. Maybe even glance up slightly if your balance is feeling steady with that. There. And then release. And we'll bring it in now. There. Okay. Great. So we're moving quite a bit today. I'm going to come to the other orientation of my mat. To the short end, top end of the mat. Once you've arrived here, adjust those feet to be hip distance apart. And let's go into our chair pose where we do sit the seat back, bend those knees, arms will reach forward. Good, just take a little look down at those knees, make sure they're pointing straight ahead in line with the toes. Equal weight both feet for a moment here. Now we're going to try to see if we can come into our warrior one from this position. So usually I just lean a little over into my left leg. Then I'm going to try to pick up that right leg and step it back. Land that right heel down. And then find this posture here where we're reaching up. A little bend in that front leg there. Stretch up through those fingertips. Palms face in. Maybe even another moment to glance upward slightly. Nice. And then release arms down and also start to straighten out your front leg. We're going to take a little walk down that front leg now. I encourage a fairly lengthened spine as you do this. Come down to where you're comfortable. If you need to bend that front knee a little bit, no problem. Okay, now from this position, we're going to try to get into a lunge. Now what I do is bend that front leg quite a bit, and I get my fingertips to the ground. Once I've made connection, that back leg steps or slides back a bit more, and the heel lifts. If that's not quite working out for you, it's okay to come to kneeling and then stretch that right leg back. Okay, once we're here, we've still got that right knee up in the air. We're going to land the right hand really solidly into the ground, and then pick up the left arm and see if we can rotate and reach up. Yes, so right hand is down, left arm is reaching. We'll have a little moment to hold. There we go. Come out. And then we're going to try to make it into plank. That's always a bit of a kerfuffle if you're having a hard time getting that front leg back. Just come to kneeling and through a transfer. But essentially, from there, we arrive in this plank position. And together we'll drop to the knees. So a kneeling plank. And then we're going to lower our bodies down to the ground. And see if you can do that with some good control. Keeping the body in a nice straight line. Lower it down. It should be that your hands land right naturally into cobra position beside the chest. Tops of the feet flat. When you're ready, let's do this on a breath in. Inhale and rise up into that back bend. Cobra lift. And then exhale, start to pick up your hips and then shift them back, tuck your toes under, and a downward dog. Now, if you're not feeling like you want to do another downward dog here, you could be in child's pose instead. A little bit of awareness of sending those heels to the ground right now. Good, and then let those knees bend a little bit more, look forward, see how it goes to step one foot at a time towards the hands as far as you can get, and then rise up from there. There, okay. I'm walking forward here, just making sure I'm at the top of my mat. Okay, let's go back to that chair pose. Bend those knees, sit the bottom back, reach forward. Chest is lifted here. Arriving here together, 2 more breaths. Good, okay, now we're going to try to transfer into our warrior one. This time it's the left leg that tries to step back. Take your time with that. We'll come into it. Meet up here. Left foot is grounding, slightly turned out with that heel down. Front knee is bent. We're lifting through the chest here. That back leg is also really straight. See what you can do about keeping both hips to angle or point forward here. Taking one more full breath. Good, and then let's release those arms. Okay, straightening out that front leg. This is that walking down, leaning. This one here, the intention is you should start to feel a stretch into the back of the front leg, that hamstring area. Usually when I'm in this pose, my gaze is down at the ground. I'm not lifting my head to look up. Try to get the back of the neck long. Okay, this is our transfer to lunge. Now bend that front knee, see if you can connect to the ground, otherwise you got to come to kneeling. And then the back leg here is shifting a little more, so that's our left leg this time. Heel will be up. And once you've found your lunge, we're going to put the left hand palm flat to the ground and then try to reach the right arm up towards the ceiling this time. So your body rotates towards that front knee. Okay, great. From what I can tell, it looks like everyone's got the correct direction there. Draw that right shoulder back a little more. Move the shoulders a little bit away from those ears. Open up that space. And another breath. Very good. Arm comes down. Try to transfer from here to plank. It's okay to challenge yourself too. I mean, maybe some of you want to stay at your toes instead of coming to the knees on this lowering down today. I'm going to demonstrate back to the knees. Breathe in here. And then on the exhale, let's come down to the ground. All the way. Land, let the tops of the feet get flat. Stretch those legs on your next breath in. Let's cobra lift up. And exhale, shift the hips back, bend the knees, tuck the toes, downward dog, or your alternative if you need. Be here for 2 breaths. There we go. Bend those knees, look forward. We're going to try to come from here to standing again. One step at a time to the hands. And we rise up. Yeah, that was really, really good. I can look at my screen and see everybody up with me. That's a good sign. Haven't lost anyone. We're going to go now right back into our chair pose. So as you bend those knees and sit back, just get a gaze or a steady point for your eyes somewhere forward, maybe down on the ground a few paces away or a wall in front of you. And then see what it feels like for your balance and safety to try to lift the heels up so you're onto the balls of the feet. If that's too unsteady in those ankles or anything, lower the heels back down. Good, and I'm going to come down with the heels and lift up and out and take a little moment to release. Catch the breath. And I'll try that one more time. Back to our squat position, reaching those arms forward. Feel free to stay grounded with the heels. Maybe the heels come up again. We could also reach the arms up this time, if anybody wants a little bit more challenge there. Watch those knees aren't knocking in towards one another. This is balance and strength all in one. Good, and then release and let that go. Excellent. Okay. Let's take a breath in together with a simple sweep up with the arms now. Inhale and reach. Nice. And then exhale. Let's take a forward fold. So I'm just gently bending the knees and coming down into a hang position and a little pause here. Good. Now let's make our way down to the ground again. If you need to stand first, no problem. If you're able to connect to the ground, you might just come to kneeling. And tabletop position specifically. There, okay. We're going to take our right leg, extending it back from this position. Level hips. And then see if you can reach the left arm out to the side. Hopefully you have room in your space there. A little bit different. Okay, now with this left arm and right leg, we're going to travel them with bent elbow and bent knee underneath the body. So it's like the elbow comes towards the knee, and then you send it back out to the side and send the leg back. And you want to connect to some breathing when you do this, in and out. So usually I'm inhaling when I extend and reach, and then exhale as I travel it under. Now, of course, if this is just feeling a little bit too wobbly or something's not working, you could just do the leg without the arm, or vice versa. Good, I'm doing one more with this. There, and then set that down. Let's take a switch right away. We'll get off that one wrist. The left leg goes back. And then the right arm out to the side here. Breathe in from that start position. Exhale, knee and elbow together. And inhale it back out. You might be going at a different pace than me though. Just kind of find your way through this. Another good example of a movement pattern or pose in yoga where we've got balance and strength coming together. You're the last one. Good, and we release from there. Okay, now I am find my lunge position again, and you might choose to have some padding under your knee for this. I'm just showing with a bit of blanket padding. I know being on the knees for a while can be a little bothersome, in this one in particular. So if you want to maybe join me on the same side, I'm going to have my left knee down and my right foot stepping forward. On this one, if your hands aren't comfortably reaching the ground, you could get like a block or something under your hand, or one hand, or be close to like a couch or whatever you need, right? Have a bit of support. Really walk that right foot forward so that the ankle's under the knee and those hips are shifting forward and down. Okay, so there's a couple more steps we're going to try here today. The left hand, connect down onto your surface, whether it's a block or the floor. And then we're going to take the right hand to the right hip. And we're rotating our body towards that right knee, so to the right. Yeah, there's a bit of rotation going on. Now there is one more piece here, and this last part is really, really a deep stretch, and a lot of people will just kind of maybe test it out, maybe not get the whole way, don't be concerned. We're going to try to bend that back knee, and then with that right hand, reach back to see if you can get a hold of your foot or ankle. Now that's a really big stretch a lot of times. So if you're, I'm just demonstrating, maybe your knee's just a little bent and you're reaching for it. You know, you don't quite get it. No big deal. I mean, there is time if you've got a yoga band and you really wanted to try to put it around your foot to help it in there, you could. Yeah, so trying this on and knowing that you don't have to do the knee bend. You could just keep that leg flat. For those of you who have connected this way, you know that it's a big stretch, so giving you a few more moments. Do come out anytime. I'm going to stay here for another 3 breaths. And then when you release, let's take a moment. Just come back to any position you like I'm just going to go to kneeling, but you might do a child's pose or something different. Good. Yeah, so that one there is, like I said, it's a big move, at least in my body. I feel a big stretch there. And I know that it can be challenging to reach that foot, so we just go where we can go. Let's try that other side now. Left leg is the one that steps forward. So I always take a moment, like I just really find that perfect lunge first. Yeah, good, I think we've got it. Right hand is the one that's grounding down on the floor. Left hand to the hip, just rotating to that side now, towards that knee. Remember, this is a great place to stay, good stretch. Take care of that kneecap right in the back. And then see, maybe some of you are bending that leg with me. Find that breath moving towards those areas where you can feel that stretch. Breathe into them. Okay, time to let that go. Help yourself out of that. And let's find our way to sitting. Now with my blanket, or maybe you've got a cushion, I'm gonna have a little fold here for this next one, because this is the one move where I think sometimes it's nice to have something under your seat for sure. So what I'm doing is creating like a little side sit onto that blanket or cushion. So hopefully you can see in the screen there what I did. Yeah, so we've got both legs angled to the same side. And it doesn't matter what side you go to. And feel free to prop up, you know, if you feel too low, go higher than I'm doing. Yeah, so this first one is a little bit of a reach. Whatever side your legs are angled towards, we're going to lean our body that way. And usually we're trying to get our fingertips down to the ground or put a surface under the hand if you need. And the other arm can reach up and ever so gently just approach this side opening or side bend. I'm slightly leaned forward as well. Like I'm careful not to arch my back here. Taking one more breath here. That arm can float down. We sit upright. And let's see if we can get this outside leg to bend in front and cross over. Sometimes you gotta wiggle that blanket under your seat a little more so you don't feel tippy. Hey, I think we're all there. That's a good sign. Okay, so this knee that's in front, let's just sort of move it in towards the opposite shoulder, like you're drawing it across the body a little bit. Notice if there's a hip stretch there for you. This one also lends into that twisting motion, which is, you could just stay front facing if you prefer. Maybe you've got a really good stretch going. But if you wanted, you could just hold with that opposite arm only and the other arm can reach behind you. Still drawing that knee across. This is my move that I do fairly often. It's seated twist position, and I always thought it should be renamed pretzel pose. Okay, good. Let's come out and try that by switching it over. I usually just move that cushion over to the other seat, move the feet over to the other side. Go ahead and go into that side lean the other way when you're ready. It may not be a big bend. It might just be a little reach up more so than a lean, because we just want to lengthen through that one side without too much compression over here. Okay, releasing out. Outside leg, we bring it in front. Maybe we can cross it over too. I'm adjusting that blanket under my seat. And again, we're just moving that knee into the body, maybe across to that opposite shoulder. Both hands can help, or if you wanted to add that twist, you can reach back with a free arm there. Get a little extra lift through your posture for this moment here. It's a bit more reaching up. Okay, and come back to the front. All right. I will continue to sit on my blanket for this next one, but you're more than welcome to move your seat to the ground if you want to be a little bit lower. Both those legs are outstretched in front of you. Now this is seated forward fold, and I personally don't have very flexible hamstrings, so I've always found this one a very challenging move. If you are up quite high and there's this big space under your knees in front, you could also fill that with like a cushion or rolled up towel if it was bugging you. Or like I said, come down to ground level. We're going to be slowly taking our time to a lean forward here. And with this motion, sometimes it's helpful as you start going, sometimes to just wiggle your seat back a little bit more. Make sure that you're moving the pelvis forward with you as you come into this lean. And if there's just absolutely no movement forward, it's okay. You can stay up and just feel a stretch, or maybe bend the knees a little bit. Some of you will probably be having a better time with this move than I am. Just checking in that you've arrived somewhere that feels like a good place that you can stay here. We're going to be here for another good 4 or 5 breaths. Taking care of the back. Maybe a little bit more softness into that upper body. Okay, I'm beginning to lift now. All right. So hopefully that was okay there. We're going to be moving now. I'd like to roll onto our back next. So let's take a little shift here. Now when you first come here on your back, let's go into our wide knee position. The soles of the feet go wide and the knees part out. In this moment, it's okay if your low back's feeling a little bit arched off of the ground. That might feel releasing after that fold. Just being here for a few more moments, again, just having some time. Check in, connect to the breath. Having a little notice of what's happening as we stay in silence there. Sometimes we catch mind starts to wander. Sometimes it's good to do a little mental noting if it's always wandering in a very specific way. Same thing coming back. Okay, now let's close those knees up. Walk those feet to being around hip distance, and we want to have those heels fairly close to the hips there. Now we're going to come into a bridge, so I usually just keep my arms along the sides there, and start to lift those hips up. Press those feet down evenly into the ground. Come to where you feel like it's a good, comfortable height. And we're going to move in and out of this a little bit. So as we lower the hips down, not all the way to the ground, we just sink them down a bit. The knees might part out ever so slightly. And then when we lift the hips back up, bring the knees in towards one another. And let's find the breath with this rhythm. Inhale when we lower, and exhale when we lift up and those knees draw in. And another little piece, when you exhale, draw the lower tummy inwards a little bit. Now again, this doesn't have to be a huge high bridge. We're just adding some movement here. Connecting to some strength through the core, but also into those hips and legs. Let's do one more like that. Good, and then we get a little break now. Just take that rest position, hips on the ground. I'd like to do one more bridge today. And this time it's a full bridge with a bit of a hold. So I'll just kind of step you through those different pieces. First step is to lift those hips back up. Stack those knees right above the ankles there. Start to wiggle the shoulders and the shoulder blades together underneath the back there. Top or the front tip of the shoulder draws back. Some of us were even going to be able to clasp our hands behind our low back there or underneath. Don't worry if that doesn't work out. And as we do that with a straight arm, we kind of push down our hands into the ground, and you might feel this lift and opening of the chest a little bit higher. The chin's drawing in and down. Bridge is definitely a strength move. The whole back body is working for you. Front body is opening and lifting. Staying for one more hold here. That's it. And then I release the hands, release those shoulders, let that back settle down. Really good. And then after that one, let's bring those knees into the chest here. So both knees drawing in, little rocking out, any tension there into the back. Maybe let's stretch out the backs of those legs just a little bit too. If you hold the backs of the thighs, see if you can reach both legs up a little bit here. Okay. The knees bend in again, and we're going to go into a twist. So some of you might feel like you can do your twist from this elevated position with the legs, where you just let both legs roll over to one side, or you're certainly welcome to bring those feet to the floor before you take the knees over. A little bit more gentle. Either way, once you arrive into that rotation to one side, make sure that that hip sort of shifts in a little bit more again, keeping your spine lengthened and long. That opposite arm can reach out to the side here too. Yeah, and I see some of you maybe trying to decide how far to go still. If your knees are really high in the air and it's just not feeling safe, sometimes if you get like a couple cushions or blankets padded under the knee, it gives you some support. But also remember that little tip of bringing those feet to the ground and maybe just going over a little bit from there. Good, let's stay this one more breath here on this side. Good, you can just bring up one leg at a time, roll onto your back. However worked best to get into that twist, you go from that same position again. Or roll it to that other side. All right, okay, let's come on back. On our backs here. Knees can stay bent. We're just going to go into a little bit of windshield wipering here. So I'm widening those feet on the mat and then just getting a little bit of swaying and rocking of those hips now. Just a little quick, brief moment to do that. And then out of that position, we're just going to let the knees kind of fall in towards one another. Unless that's uncomfortable for you, you can just have a neutral position there. And let's take in a little stretch across the shoulders. This is that eagle arm position that we do. Sometimes we do it standing, sometimes sitting, and today lying down. So one arm, that elbow hooks under the other. And we try to get that upper arm and hand connection there, that wrapping. Just trying to get into that shoulder stretch, wherever you can go with this one. I usually let my hands, if they are in that wrapped position, I let the hands fall down to the forehead. Noticing also that that chin shouldn't be poking up. We want to keep the chin drawing in and down. And now as we release from this side, take those arms out to that cactus position to the sides just for a little moment. Take a breath. Good, and then we're going to wrap those arms with the other arm hooking underneath. And then we'll go back into a hold here for just another 3 breaths. Good, and then back to that open arm position, elbows bent, arms to the side there. All right, walk those feet back in if they were wide like mine were. And let's finish up here with a long stretch on our mat. So both arms reaching overhead and both legs lengthening out now. This is a nice way to bring things back into that alignment and centered feeling. That evenness from the left and right sides. A length through the spinal column here. Good, and then let's come out and get ourselves into a comfortable lying position ready for our Shavasana. There, it looks like people are in that position and fairly still. Adjust anything that doesn't feel right for you. Relax those eyes, closed lids. As we enter into this rest today, let's have the awareness of sound first. With a little time to connect to whatever sounds you're hearing around you. See if you can open up that sense of hearing to near and far sounds. Good, and then from there, let's shift our attention to the sense of touch. Wherever maybe you're grounding, back body to ground. Any other senses on the skin, the air, maybe the clothing touching the skin. Where do you connect to that sensation of touch in your body? And then bring your attention to the sense of taste in your mouth. Maybe swallowing a couple times, just being aware of that quality inside the mouth. And then move your attention to breathing in and out through the nose, and as you do, checking in with that sense of smell. Maybe there's nothing really dominant here, maybe there is, but just being attuned to that, of breathing in, connecting to smell. And then bring your attention to your eyes behind those closed eyelids. And settling into the sense of vision, but from the inside. So directing that gaze inwardly. Noticing what is present as you do that. And then let's shift our attention to just a sense of your body here resting this last little moment, forming a general sense of how you feel right now. No expectations, just being aware. And then when the time feels ready, you could move a little bit, maybe bending those knees in if you haven't already. And we'll meet up sitting when you're ready to come up. Okay, so looks like most of us are there, and I would just like to finish with saying that as I was laying there and we were going through that final Shavasana, I was thinking to myself also that I think that's one of my big intentions for these classes, is that in addition to getting our bodies moving and that breath coming in and out fully, is to also to come into this more aware state rather than our busy thinking minds. And hopefully at some point in the class you were experiencing a little bit more connection to what's happening in the moment in that aware state. And yeah, and then we'll leave it there.